trying to understand what is inside of Trump's mind. I think there are even some of his closest advisors that don't fully understand what his motivations are. Part of the challenge is that his motivations are in conflict with one another. And I think that that's something that is a reality that we have to understand.
My name is Jose Carlos Rodriguez Pueblita. I'm professor of business economics at the Padre Business School. We welcome Michael Camuñez. Welcome, Michael. Michael is a president and CEO of Monarch Global Strategies, and he has an extensive career in commercial diplomacy. The first question, trying to make a sense of what's going on. What do you think is going on? What happened? What is in Trump's mind? What are his goals?
I think first and foremost, I think that the Trump doctrine, if you will, is one that is about power. And I think the president views the world through that lens and through that prism principally. His admiration of powerful leaders in the world, albeit autocrats, is well known. And I think he harkens back to kind of an anachronistic worldview of spheres of influence where he believes fundamentally that the United States should exert its power and that strong states should exert power over weaker states. I think rooted in that, if we're going to give the president some credit that this isn't just some irrational obsession, I think the most that I could say, without defending his policies, is that I think there is some realpolitik considerations going on in his mind that's driving this, which includes the realization that China and Russia are global powers. There will be increasing competition for influence in the Arctic cap, with the melting of the polar ice cap and control of the sea lanes in the Arctic, access to critical minerals and territory. I think that is clearly what's behind his irrational obsession with Greenland and with Canada even. A second thing I think is a belief that the United States has been decimated that our industrial capacity and our manufacturing capacity has been decimated by China's entry into the WTO and by a flight of capital out of the United States to other markets. And I think, wrongly or rightly, he believes that this tariff strategy will help force the will of the industrial class to bring investment back to the United States. And I think that he is firmly convicted that if these tariffs are imposed, that we'll see new investment in the United States. And then finally, I think the tariffs are a blunt instrument to achieve other non-economic imperatives and goals. Dr. Mead spoke earlier about migration and security. I think these are very real. Many of these goals, as I mentioned, are in conflict with one another, and none of them justify the United States trying to do this alone. But that is the policy, that is the Trump doctrine, that is the Trump policy, and we'll have to pick up the pieces and live with it in the coming days, weeks, and years.
As Mexicans, what should we do? Thinking from the business perspective, because there's a lot of uncertainty. We're going to receive some news tomorrow really about what are going to be the final decisions regarding tariffs. From a business perspective, how can we prepare for the following, let's say, couple of years of adjustment?
I would say strategic patience. My hope is that the USMCA doesn't go away completely, although if I had to predict today, I would say that we're rapidly heading, that the USMCA, if it's not a dead letter already, it's on life support, and that we're quickly heading toward a result that could likely end up with a bilateral agreement between the United States and Mexico, and I don't know if Canada comes back to the table or not. In that context, I think the reality is, as Pepe was alluding to earlier, the connectivity between the United States and Mexico is so deep and so pervasive that it can't be erased overnight, and it shouldn't be. So I think the proper thing to do is to have what I would call strategic patience. Wait until everything plays itself out correctly, because it is true that there was tremendous uncertainty in 2016 when Trump took office and campaigned against NAFTA as the worst agreement. And at the end of the day, after withdrawing from the TPP and condemning NAFTA as a bad agreement, they basically incorporated key elements of the TPP and strengthened NAFTA, and now we had the USMCA, which produced dramatic increases and improvements in trade. So we could end up in a situation where the bilateral relationship between the United States and Mexico, ironically, is strengthened, but I don't think it's safe to assume that. So what can companies do in the meantime? Number one, I think they have to, ironically, play two games at the same time. As we say in English, walk and chew gum at the same time. I think you have to continue to invest in the North American supply chains, because this administration will not last forever, but these economies and this relationship will, I'm convinced, and so we have to play the long game. But at the same time, I think Mexico can also, Mexican business and the Mexican government has to work very hard to improve the economic conditions in Mexico. And by that I mean specifically improve the degree of uncertainty that exists, and without wanting to be perceived as partisan, I think the last sexennial was very difficult on the rule of law and on the business climate in Mexico. Mexico has to strengthen its image as a place to do business, where rule of law exists, where contracts have certainty, and where it can be a good investment climate. The sad reality is that this nearshoring opportunity that should have created a massive stimulus in Mexico came and went, and I think Mexico largely missed the boat for the most part. So I think there's a lot of work to do in Mexico to strengthen the business climate and the sense of Mexico as a strong destination for foreign investment. And that's something that I think the Mexican business community needs to do, working with the Mexican government. I think this administration, Dr. Sheinbaum, has shown herself more willing to work constructively with the private sector, and that's a very positive thing.
And as an American and friend of Mexico, are you optimistic about the medium and long-term outcomes of this adjustment? Thinking about both the bilateral relation and about the United States, what's going to be the role of the United States in the world?
I'm deeply worried, if I'm honest with you, Jose Carlos, I'm deeply worried about my country and what's happening to it. And I'm deeply worried about the United States as a leader in the free world, because I think we are quickly and dangerously undermining the values and the principles that enabled us to help rebuild the world after World War II. Many of the institutions are being undermined. Many of the so-called Washington consensus is being undone. So I'm very worried, but I have to believe that we have to take the long view. And taking the long view, as they say, geography is destiny. And I believe that the United States together, first of all, I think it needs Canada and Mexico to compete effectively against China. I'm not one that likes to vilify China. I don't see China personally as much of a military threat, although clearly it could be. But I think it's more of a strategic competitor, and we're not competing well. And I firmly believe that the route to competition against China, the way we are going to compete against China, is as North America, not going it alone as America first or America only. We have to do it as North America. And I think what I'm hopeful for is that civil society, the business community, and ultimately our political leaders in all three countries will come to their senses and realize that it's an existential requirement that we cooperate, that we strengthen our relationships, that we grow together. And so in that sense, I'm optimistic, but I think we're in for some very, very stormy seas ahead.
Again, Michael, thank you for being here. Welcome to IPADE.